Isn't it kind of hard to believe that two completely new video game consoles came out this year? Isn't it hard to believe that there is a PS5 on sale right now and that nobody is buying it, that nobody cares about any of its games, that nobody is buying any of its excited for its upcoming releases? Isn't it funny how the 4-year-old Nintendo Switch is dominating the sales charts right now with games like Animal Crossing, with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Two of those are Wii U games, by the way. It's hilarious how this has played out. We are in the end times of PlayStation and Xbox, and I don't think anybody besides me is really actively talking about this. Or rather, not even me, because this really is something I really should have been saying on launch day. Like, this is something I've been thinking, but like, because I've been so busy with uncovering election fraud, exposing the coup, sort of talking about all this crazy shit, like, editing my novel. I'm very busy. Like, I know I say that, like, I sound like a broken record talking about this, but I've been very, very busy. I haven't had time to really talk about the next generation consoles, and in a lot of ways, I don't think anybody has. I don't think anyone has any real enthusiasm for these things going forward. I think they're basically completely dead in the water. I think they're completely irrelevant. Only the most... Actually, I heard some speculation on 4chan that the vast majority of sales at the moment are from scalpers who are just trying to sell them online. So these people are buying a PS5 and then trying to sell it online and failing, and that's it's kind of interesting to watch. The PS5 and the Series X sales have been abominably bad, like really, really terrible, like so terrible that like they're not even trying to pretend they're doing well. Right now, the gaming industry is trying to salvage Cyberpunk 2077, but they're completely forgetting to damage control the PlayStation. I think they kind of expect the PlayStation to take off eventually, but I don't think there's ever really going to be recovery from this. Like, I really, really don't. And there's a lot of reasons why. Like, of course, Game Pass is taking off. Of course, like, you have mobile gaming. Of course, you have, like, dominance of Nintendo consoles. But I think, like, at the core of it is that, like, PlayStation and, like, the vast majority of third parties, like the third parties that gave everything they had to try and make PlayStation the dominant gaming platform in the world, the ones that work tirelessly to drive Nintendo and Sega out of the console industry in the 90s, these guys, they've basically lost all of their talent. They've basically lost all of their iconic IPs. They basically have nothing to show for it anymore. Like, they don't have Final Fantasy. They don't have Metal Gear Solid. They don't have fringe shit like Suikoden or Clona or Contra or Silent Hill or anything, really. Like, they have a handful of franchises that occasionally get a release, but, like, we are at the point now where the most excited people get when it comes to new releases is when it comes to remakes of old shit. We've seen this with, like, Final Fantasy VII-R and Resident Evil 2 remake, right? Like, that's the only time there's any real enthusiasm for these companies and for their products, is like remaking stuff that was already good 20 years ago. Like, nobody has any faith in them to deliver. Nobody has any faith in them to deliver interesting content. And after years of shit like Titanfall, Destiny, Godfall, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, like, who can blame them? Like, what are even the games on PS5? I know I'm kind of out of touch. I know I haven't really been following along with the release schedule, but, like, I legit can't think of anything that's come out this year. Like, every time the PS5 comes up, like, people are just like, Miles Morales, that looks pretty good. And these are, like, people who don't know anything about the game, right? Like they're just kind of like, oh well, that looks like it might be good, I guess. They don't know that it's only 6 hours long. They don't know it's also available on PS4. Like they don't know that like it's not all that great of a game. Like they're just sort of like, oh, it's a Marvel. Maybe I'll check that out. Like it's a very real difference as to how people are reacting to Animal Crossing news, right? Like 30 million copies of Animal Crossing New Horizons sold, or reacting to Smash Bros. News. Like the biggest announcements of the past several years have been Smash related announcements, right? Like new characters being in Smash are a big deal now. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, like nobody's talking about Street Fighter V, Tekken and Street Fighter are getting these terrible guest characters that nobody cares about. Who the fuck cares that Geralt from The Witcher 3 is in Soul Calibur 6? And now like we're sort of at this point where even like the developers that people tried promoting as being based and like for the players, like CD Projekt Red, are alienating their audience. Like people may. The way the industry works right now, it seems that the industry is trying to make it so that like long-running games like Fortnite and No Man's Sky sort of get like all the hype and publicity. But what they're trying to do is build an audience of games, like a sort of evergreen Nintendo or Minecraft style audience of people who will always keep coming in and playing like this one really good money-making game with like all these updates and microtransactions, and then like developers can just churn out shit whenever they want. Like that seems to be like the trend we're going down at the moment. But even for a lot of these people, even that's not working. Like companies seem to be going downhill left and right. Like I'm worried about Platinum Games. I'm kind of curious how the next decade's going to handle them. I've been very vocal about how I believe Bayonetta 3 is probably going to be the last really good game they ever make. Presuming it's even going to be good, by the way. We still haven't seen anything from that. I am just like, wow. Wow. What a terrible console generation in general. The PS4 and Xbox One were like probably the worst consoles in history. You know what I mean? Like so bad that I didn't even bother buying a PS4, right? And now we're getting something even worse. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. There has never been a launch console. There has never been a major console launch that has been received as poorly as this, as lukewarmly as this, I should say. Because it's not like people are angry at these consoles or anything like that. There's no controversy around them. There's no ranting and raving online. It's not like the Xbox One online debacle. People just aren't interested. Like, people are just simply playing better games on Nintendo hardware. Exactly what they should have been doing from the beginning.